tomorrow morning your alarm will go off just like it always does. Maybe you'll hit snooze. Maybe you'll reach for your phone before your eyes are fully open. Maybe you'll stumble into the kitchen, still half asleep, already thinking about that first cup of coffee. It feels routine, almost automatic. But while you're deciding what to do next, something remarkable is already happening inside your body. Long before you make your first conscious decision, your stomach has already begun preparing for whatever comes next. And here's the surprising part. Your stomach isn't simply waiting to be filled, it's waiting for a very specific kind of signal. The first thing you consume each morning doesn't just satisfy hunger. It begins a chain reaction that influences digestion, hydration, energy levels, and even the trillions of microscopic organisms living inside your gut. In many ways, that first choice quietly sets the biological tone for the next several hours. But what exactly is your stomach expecting? Is it coffee? A protein shake? Fruit juice? Breakfast? Or is the answer something much simpler than most people realize? To understand that, we have to begin several hours before you wake up. Imagine your body while you're asleep. From the outside, everything looks still. Your bedroom is quiet. Your breathing slows. Your eyes move through different stages of sleep. It almost feels as though your entire body has pressed a pause button. But inside, nothing has stopped. Your heart continues pumping thousands of liters of blood throughout the night. Your liver keeps processing nutrients stored from yesterday's meals. Your kidneys carefully balance water and minerals. Even your brain remains astonishingly active, organizing memories and repairing neural connections while you sleep. And then there's your stomach. Most people imagine that once dinner has been digested, the stomach simply switches off until breakfast. It doesn't. Even after your last meal has left the stomach, specialized cells embedded within its lining continue releasing hydrochloric acid. This isn't a mistake or wasted effort. It's part of the stomach's normal physiology, described for decades in standard medical references like Gittin and Hall's Textbook of Medical Physiology, and by the U.S. National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases. By morning, there's very little food left, but there is still acid, highly acidic fluid, strong enough to unfold proteins and activate digestive enzymes the moment food arrives. That sounds alarming until you realize something extraordinary. Your stomach was designed for exactly this environment. Think about it for a moment. If your stomach contained acid powerful enough to break down a steak, why doesn't it digest itself? For centuries, this puzzled physicians. The answer lies in one of the body's most remarkable protective systems. Every second of every day, cells lining your stomach produce a slippery layer of mucus rich in bicarbonate. Together, they form an invisible shield between your stomach wall and the acid inside it. Imagine placing a delicate glass bowl inside a furnace while surrounding it with an invisible heat-resistant barrier. The furnace can continue burning at full intensity without damaging the bowl because the protective layer absorbs the danger before it reaches the surface. Your stomach works in much the same way. As long as this protective barrier remains healthy, acid becomes an incredibly useful tool rather than a threat. But here's where the story becomes even more interesting. That protective system doesn't exist in isolation. It constantly responds to signals from the brain, hormones, blood flow, and whatever enters your stomach first. Which raises an important question. What happens during those first few minutes after you wake up? The moment your eyes open, your body begins one of the most predictable hormonal events in human biology. It's called the Cortisol Awakening Response. Despite cortisol's reputation as the stress hormone, this morning surge isn't your body panicking. It's your body's natural alarm clock. Researchers, including Dr. Clemens Kirschbaum and colleagues, have spent decades studying this response. Their work shows that in many healthy adults, cortisol rises significantly during the first 30 to 45 minutes after waking. Instead of harming you, this temporary increase helps prepare the body for the demands of a new day. Heart rate begins to rise. Blood pressure gradually increases. Your brain becomes more alert. Stored energy starts becoming available. Even your digestive system receives the message. The day has begun. Get ready. This is one of the reasons mornings often feel so different from late evenings. Your entire physiology is shifting from recovery mode into action mode. But that transition creates another question. If your stomach is already acidic, if hormones are already changing, and if you've spent 7 or 8 hours without drinking anything, What condition is your digestive system actually in before breakfast? The answer surprises many people. Every single night while you're sleeping, your body quietly loses water. You don't notice it because it happens slowly. Each breath carries tiny amounts of water vapor into the air. Your skin continues releasing moisture even while you rest. Together, these normal processes mean that by morning, most healthy adults wake up mildly dehydrated to some degree. Not dangerously dehydrated, just enough that your body notices water makes up much more than what fills a glass. It forms the environment where countless biological reactions take place. It helps transport nutrients, supports blood circulation, and allows digestive secretions to function efficiently. After an overnight fast, replacing that lost fluid becomes one of the first tasks your body is prepared to accomplish, and that's where one of the biggest morning habits in modern life enters the story. Because instead of giving the stomach what it has quietly been waiting for all night, millions of people pour themselves something entirely different: coffee. Now, before you assume coffee is either a miracle drink or a terrible mistake, it's worth slowing down, because the real story isn't nearly as simple as the internet often makes it sound. And once scientists began studying what actually happens when coffee is the very first thing to enter an empty stomach, they discovered something far more fascinating than most headlines ever mention. Coffee has become so woven into modern life that many of us barely think about it anymore. For millions of people, the morning doesn't truly begin until that first sip. The smell alone can feel like a signal that it's finally time to wake up. It's comforting, familiar, predictable. So when someone says, maybe coffee shouldn't be the first thing your stomach receives, it often sounds almost absurd. But this isn't really a story about coffee. It's a story about timing. And once scientists began looking closely at what happens inside the body during the first hour after waking, they realized that timing may matter far more than most people ever imagined. Let's go back to that hormonal wave we mentioned earlier, the cortisol awakening response. Think of cortisol as your body's built-in sunrise. As daylight reaches your eyes and your brain realizes it's time to wake up, cortisol begins climbing naturally. It isn't trying to make you anxious, it's preparing every major organ system for activity. Your liver starts releasing stored glucose to provide energy. Your cardiovascular system becomes more alert. Your brain shifts toward greater focus. Even your digestive organs begin preparing for food. Researchers have documented this response for decades because it's one of the most reliable biological rhythms humans possess. In healthy adults, cortisol typically peaks within about 30 to 45 minutes after waking before gradually declining throughout the morning. In other words, your body has already started its own natural engine, which raises an interesting question. What happens if we immediately add another stimulant? The answer is more nuanced than many headlines suggest. Caffeine, the primary active compound in coffee, doesn't simply give you energy. Instead, it blocks receptors for a molecule called adenosine. Throughout the day, adenosine slowly builds up in your brain, creating the feeling of sleepiness that eventually tells you it's time to rest. By occupying those receptors, caffeine temporarily prevents that message from being delivered. You don't suddenly create more energy. You temporarily stop yourself from feeling how tired you are. That's an important distinction. At the same time, several studies, including work published in Psychosomatic Medicine by Dr. William Lavallo and colleagues, have shown that caffeine can also increase cortisol levels, particularly in people who aren't fully accustomed to it. That doesn't automatically mean coffee is harmful. Far from it. For many healthy adults, moderate coffee consumption is associated with benefits ranging from improved alertness to a lower risk of certain chronic diseases. But context matters, and the first thing your empty stomach experiences each morning is a very specific context. Have you ever noticed that coffee feels completely different on an empty stomach than after breakfast? Some people can drink it with no problem at all. Others feel nausea. Some notice heartburn. Others experience shakiness, stomach discomfort, or an urgent trip to the bathroom. Why such different reactions? Part of the answer lies inside the stomach itself. Coffee stimulates gastric activity. Researchers have known for years that both regular and decaffeinated coffee can increase gastric acid secretion, suggesting that caffeine isn't the only compound responsible. Coffee contains hundreds of naturally occurring chemicals, including chlorogenic acids and other bioactive compounds that interact with the digestive system in complex ways. For someone with a healthy digestive tract, this usually isn't a problem. For someone prone to acid reflux, gastritis, or stomach sensitivity, however, drinking coffee before eating may worsen symptoms. Notice the difference. Not everyone. 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 It depends on the individual. That's an important distinction because good science rarely deals in absolutes. This brings us to one of the biggest myths surrounding morning routines. Asterisk. Myth. Everyone should wait exactly 90 minutes before drinking coffee. You've probably heard that recommendation online. The idea became widely discussed after neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Huberman explained that delaying caffeine might allow the body's natural cortisol rhythm to unfold before introducing another stimulant. It's an interesting hypothesis grounded in circadian biology. But here's what often gets lost in translation. At the moment, there are very few large clinical trials showing that waiting precisely 90 minutes produces superior long-term health outcomes for everyone. The biological reasoning makes sense. The evidence is still evolving. That means the more accurate conclusion isn't that every person must avoid early coffee. It's that some people, especially those who experience jitters, anxiety, or energy crashes, may benefit from experimenting with delayed caffeine. Science is strongest when it admits uncertainty. If coffee isn't automatically the villain, then what exactly is your stomach asking for first? To answer that, we need to think about something most of us never notice. Water. Not because it's trendy. Not because it flushes toxins. Your liver and kidneys already perform detoxification remarkably well. Water matters for a much simpler reason. You've been without it for hours. While you slept, your body quietly lost fluid through breathing and normal evaporation from the skin. By morning, blood plasma is slightly more concentrated than it was before you went to bed. Digestive tissues are ready to be rehydrated, and your body is primed to replace what it naturally lost overnight. Sometimes the simplest explanation turns out to be the correct one. Imagine arriving at work after an 8-hour shift without drinking anything. You'd probably reach for a glass of water before a cup of coffee. Your digestive system isn't very different. One glass of water after waking helps restore fluid that was gradually lost overnight. It also provides the liquid environment that countless enzymes, cells, and tissues depend on to function normally. Whether that water is room temperature, warm, or cool is far less important than many internet debates would have you believe. Some people prefer warm water because it feels gentler on the stomach. Others enjoy cold water because it's refreshing. Current scientific evidence doesn't clearly show that one temperature is universally superior for healthy individuals. The important part isn't chasing the perfect temperature. It's simply remembering to hydrate. But as important as hydration is, it only solves part of the puzzle because your stomach isn't working alone. Hidden beyond the stomach lies an entire ecosystem, one so vast that it contains almost as many microbial cells as your own human cells. Trillions of microscopic organisms have also spent the entire night waiting, and the first meal of the day won't just feed you, it will feed them. The question is, asterisk, what have they been waiting for? Think about your last meal for a moment. Maybe it was healthy, maybe it wasn't. Either way, it's easy to believe that breakfast is simply fuel for your own body. You eat, your stomach digests, your intestines absorb nutrients, and the story ends there. But that picture is missing half the characters. Because every time you eat, you're feeding an entire ecosystem that has been living with you since the day you were born. An ecosystem so enormous that scientists estimate it contains roughly 38 trillion bacterial cells, a number revised in 2016 by researchers Ron Sender, Shay Fuchs, and Ron Milo at Israel's Weizmann Institute of Science. Their work showed that the old idea of humans having 10 times more bacteria than human cells wasn't quite right. Instead, the numbers are surprisingly close. By cell count, you're almost as much microbial as you are human. At first, that sounds unsettling, but it shouldn't. Without these microscopic partners, many of the processes we associate with good health simply wouldn't work the same way. For decades, bacteria were portrayed as enemies. Commercials promised to kill 99.9% of them. Cleaning products declared war on germs. The message was simple. Bacteria were something to eliminate. Then science discovered a much more fascinating truth. Many of the bacteria living inside your digestive tract aren't invaders at all. They're partners. Imagine your gut as a bustling city that never sleeps. Trillions of tiny residents perform specialized jobs every second. Some help digest fibers your own body can't break down. Others manufacture vitamins. Some produce compounds that nourish the cells lining your colon, while others help train your immune system to recognize the difference between friend and foe. They're not passengers, they're employees, and every morning, they're waiting for work to begin. This hidden workforce is called the asterisk gut microbiome, and over the last 2 decades, it has become one of the fastest growing areas of medical research. Scientists now know that the microbes living in your large intestine help produce short-chain fatty acids, such as butyrate asterisk, propionate asterisk, propionate asterisk. These molecules may sound unfamiliar, but they perform jobs that are surprisingly important. Butyrate, for example, serves as the primary fuel for the cells lining your colon. Without enough of it, those cells struggle to maintain the barrier that separates your bloodstream from the contents of your intestine. Think of it like maintaining the walls of a castle. If the walls remain strong, they protect everything inside. If maintenance stops, small problems can gradually become much larger ones. Researchers, including Dr. Harry Sokol and colleagues, have found that beneficial butyrate-producing bacteria are often reduced in people with inflammatory bowel diseases, highlighting just how important these microbes may be for intestinal health. But this raises another question. What exactly do these bacteria eat? Because the answer isn't the same as yours. When you eat a slice of bread, your digestive enzymes quickly begin breaking down starch into glucose. Proteins become amino acids. Fats become fatty acids. Most of these nutrients are absorbed long before they ever reach your large intestine, but certain carbohydrates are different. Your body can't digest them at all. These are called asterisk prebiotic fibers, ASC, and instead of becoming food for you, they become food for your microbiome. It's almost like sending a care package to billions of microscopic workers who have been waiting all night for breakfast. As they ferment these fibers, they produce the very compounds that help support your digestive system, which means something remarkable happens every morning. You aren't simply choosing your own breakfast, you're choosing theirs. So what does this hidden community actually prefer? Not sugar, not highly processed cereals, not sweetened drinks. The bacteria most consistently associated with good gut health thrive on foods rich in natural fiber: whole oats, beans, lentils, apples, pears, flaxseed, chia seeds, vegetables like onions, garlic, and leeks. These foods contain fibers that survive the journey through your small intestine and finally arrive where your microbial partners are waiting. One of the most thoroughly studied examples is asterisk beta-glucan, a soluble fiber naturally found in oats. In 1997, after reviewing a large body of clinical evidence, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration authorized a health claim stating that sufficient daily intake of oat beta-glucan may reduce the risk of coronary heart disease as part of a healthy diet. That's an extraordinary milestone. Health claims approved by regulatory agencies require substantial scientific support. But beta-glucan doesn't just benefit the heart. It also slows digestion, moderates blood sugar after meals, and provides an excellent energy source for beneficial gut bacteria. Suddenly, that humble bowl of oatmeal looks very different. Of course, fiber isn't the whole story. Imagine trying to build a house with plenty of bricks but no workers. Nothing gets constructed. Your body faces a similar challenge without adequate protein. After an overnight fast, your muscles have gone several hours without receiving new amino acids. Breakfast provides the first opportunity to begin rebuilding and repairing those tissues. Research led by Dr. Douglas Padden-Jones at the University of Texas Medical Branch has shown that distributing protein more evenly throughout the day appears to stimulate muscle protein synthesis more effectively than eating most of your protein in one large evening meal. That doesn't mean everyone needs a bodybuilder's breakfast. It simply suggests that including a meaningful source of protein in the morning, whether that's eggs, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, tofu, or another high-quality option, may better match the way our bodies use amino acids throughout the day. And when protein joins fiber on the same plate, something interesting begins to happen. Energy becomes steadier. Hunger arrives more gradually. And the morning starts to feel a little less like a race against the clock. But there's another piece of the puzzle that scientists have only recently begun to appreciate. It isn't just asterisk what ask you eat, it's asterisk when you eat. Because every organ involved in digestion follows an internal schedule, a biological timetable that has been quietly keeping time since long before alarm clocks ever existed. And when researchers uncovered how these internal clocks influence metabolism, It completely changed the way scientists think about breakfast. The surprising part, it even earned a Nobel Prize. In 2010, three scientists, Jeffrey Hall, Michael Rosbash, and Michael Young, received the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for uncovering one of the most remarkable systems inside the human body. Not a new organ, not a new disease, but an invisible clock. Their research revealed that nearly every cell in your body follows its own internal schedule. These tiny molecular clocks don't just determine when you feel sleepy. They influence hormone release, body temperature, immune activity, digestion, and even the way your body processes nutrients. In other words, your stomach doesn't simply respond to what you eat. It also responds to when you eat it. Suddenly, breakfast becomes more than just another meal. It's the first conversation between your body's biological clock and your digestive system. Imagine arriving at work before the lights are on, before the computers have started, and before anyone else has arrived. You could begin working immediately, but the office wouldn't be fully prepared. Your digestive system works in a surprisingly similar way. As morning unfolds, hormones, digestive enzymes, and intestinal activity gradually synchronize with your circadian rhythm. Your body is transitioning from overnight repair into daytime performance. Researchers studying chrononutrition, the science of meal timing, have found that metabolism changes throughout the day. Insulin sensitivity is generally higher earlier in the day than late at night, meaning the body often handles nutrients more efficiently during morning and midday hours. That doesn't mean everyone must eat breakfast the moment they wake up. Shift workers, people practicing time-restricted eating, and individuals with different medical conditions may follow different schedules. But for most healthy adults following a daytime routine, morning is when the digestive system is naturally preparing to receive nourishment. This brings us to another common misconception. Myth. Skipping breakfast automatically ruins your metabolism. It's an idea that's been repeated for decades. The reason it's so believable is that many observational studies found breakfast eaters tended to have healthier body weights and lifestyles. But here's where science reminds us to be careful. People who regularly eat breakfast also tend to exercise more, smoke less, sleep better, and make other healthy choices. That makes it difficult to know whether breakfast itself deserves all the credit. More recent research suggests the picture is much more complicated. Some people thrive on a traditional breakfast. Others do well with carefully planned time-restricted eating. The current scientific consensus isn't that everyone must eat immediately after waking. It's that the quality of the food and the overall eating pattern matter far more than rigid rules. In science, simple answers are often tempting. Reality is usually more interesting. Now let's return to the question we asked at the very beginning. What is the first thing your stomach should receive every morning? After everything we've explored, overnight physiology, hydration, stomach acid, cortisol, coffee, circadian rhythms, and the gut microbiome, the answer becomes surprisingly clear. For most healthy people, it's water. Not because it has magical detoxifying powers. Not because it has magical detoxifying powers. Not because it has magical detoxifying powers. Not because it activates your metabolism. Those claims aren't the Water earns its place for a much simpler reason. During the night, your body naturally loses fluid through breathing, perspiration, and normal metabolic processes. Replacing some of that lost fluid after waking supports circulation, digestion, temperature regulation, and countless biochemical reactions that depend on adequate hydration. Sometimes the healthiest habit isn't the most exciting. It's simply the one your biology has been expecting all along. But hydration is only the first chapter of the morning. What comes next matters just as much. Imagine giving your stomach exactly what it has been waiting for after several hours without food. Instead of overwhelming it with a breakfast loaded almost entirely with refined sugar, you provide nutrients that work together. Protein to support muscles and help maintain fullness. Fiber to nourish your gut microbes and slow digestion. Healthy fats to improve satiety. Complex carbohydrates to provide steady energy rather than a rapid spike followed by a crash. It doesn't have to be elaborate. A bowl of oatmeal with berries and nuts, Greek yogurt with fruit and seeds, eggs alongside whole grain toast and vegetables, or any meal built around whole minimally processed foods. The goal isn't perfection, it's consistency. Because your body responds to repeated habits far more than occasional healthy choices. Saya. And what about coffee? After everything we've learned, the answer probably isn't what many people expect. Coffee doesn't need to disappear from your morning. For many people, it's perfectly compatible with a healthy lifestyle. Large observational studies have even linked moderate coffee consumption with lower risks of several chronic diseases. The key is understanding your own body. If coffee on an empty stomach leaves you feeling nauseated, jittery, or causes acid reflux, try drinking water first and having coffee with or shortly after a balanced breakfast. If you tolerate coffee well without discomfort, there's no strong evidence that your morning cup is silently damaging your stomach. Good health rarely comes from following absolute rules. It comes from understanding principles and adapting them to your own physiology. So let's step back and look at the entire morning through a different lens. While you were asleep, your stomach continued producing acid. Your protective mucus barrier quietly renewed itself. Your brain prepared to wake you with a carefully timed cortisol surge. Your body gradually lost water, and trillions of microbes patiently waited for the nutrients that would fuel another day of work. All of those systems were preparing for a single moment, the moment you opened your eyes. Which means your first decision each morning isn't just another habit. It's the first message you send to one of the most sophisticated biological systems you'll ever own. Tomorrow morning, when you walk into the kitchen, you'll probably see the same choices you've always seen. The coffee maker, the cereal box, the refrigerator, the glass waiting by the sink. Nothing about your kitchen will have changed. But hopefully, something else will. You'll know that your stomach isn't an empty container waiting to be filled. It's a living organ that's been working through the entire night. You'll know that hydration isn't a wellness trend, it's simply replacing what your body naturally lost. You'll know that breakfast isn't just feeding you, it's feeding an entire ecosystem that quietly supports your digestion, metabolism, and health every single day. And perhaps most importantly, you'll realize that good health rarely begins with expensive supplements or complicated routines. More often than not, it begins with understanding how your body already works and giving it what it has been asking for all along. Because sometimes the most powerful morning habit isn't discovering something new. It's finally listening to one of the oldest biological conversations you've been having every single day of your life.